Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Lily Reads. Okay, we are here today for a September wrap-up. For some reason, when I was doing my wrap-up last month, I felt like it was September. I don't know. August is just like a blimp in my mind. I just feel like we've been in September for a really long time, but like we've been in September a few days. But it is my September wrap-up. I'm going to be honest with you. I enjoyed my reading month in September. I think I got my joy for reading back in September. I have just been picking up books I didn't even think I was going to pick up this month. Even though on my channel there were less videos, it's just because September was just a ridiculously busy month for me. I did some traveling, there were birthdays, there was a lot going on in September, but I enjoyed September. So I'm going to try and get to through this wrap up as quick as I can because I did read a lot of books, but I want to talk to them. I want to talk to you about them because I am excited. So first we are going to start off with our book club pick. I am the proud runner of the Lily Reads book club. Let me tell it, I have the best book club online. I love my book club, and we read My Week with Him by Joya Goffney. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. In this book, you are following a main character named Nikki. She lives in Cactus, Texas, and basically she gets the opportunity to audition to be the lead singer for this new group in California. So she decides she is going to run away from home and go do this audition. But before she goes, she has to tie up some loose ends, especially with her best friend Maul. And in that, they spend a week together, and you know, they learn things about each other. They learn things about, you know, their life and all of that. This book is absolutely amazing. What makes this book so great is the author of this book, Joya. She is just amazing at what she does. The way she's able to take Black stories, and specific Black stories, and tell them in such an authentic way, in a way that you're able to relate to. Even though you have not had the exact experience of these characters, you can relate to these characters. I have never read an author who has consistently written Black characters just so well. The flow of this, you guys, I read this entire book in a couple of hours. It flows. Like, it's not hard to read. Like, Joya just gets me. I have given 3 of her books 5 stars. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. As long as they keep putting out books, I will be reading them. I love this book. Get your hands on it. Amazing. The next book that I read was Bad Girl Reputation. This is a follow-up for Good Girl Complex. In this story, in this town, we are dealing with 2 brothers who live in this beach town that has a college campus, and basically they kind of are down on their luck. They do not have money, and they live in this beach town. Their parents are gone, and they're trying to deal with it. But in this story, we are meeting the girlfriend of one of these brothers. In the first book, we met one of the brothers, and he started dating a new girl that moved into town. But in this book, there's a girl who already lives in town and has been dating the brother, but she has run away and basically left the brother for dead. And now she's coming back because she no longer wants to have the same reputation. She's coming back to the beach town, and she wants to be on her best behavior, but she thinks this boy, the brother, is going to bring her down because they used to get into trouble when they were together before. So that's what Bad Girl Reputation is about. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I loved it. These books, yes, they are trashy, but they are my type of trash. I find them enjoyable. They just are really good, like, reads. Like, look at me. I done turned up my page. I was reading it so damn much. Like, I enjoy these books, but they are not for everyone. But my channel is not for everybody. I ain't for everybody, you know? Like, it's just, if you want to hear my opinions on books, I like this type of romance, even though the romance aspect of this is the weakest part for me. I took a star off because I didn't enjoy the romance. There's everything else. The ambiance of this book is what I really enjoy, and I enjoyed the story, and I enjoyed this more than I thought I was. When I read the first like 20 pages, 40 pages, I wasn't feeling it, but the more I read, the more I liked it. So I am going to give it that. The next thing I want to talk about some books I read off camera, because believe it or not, a lot of the books I read, I don't read with you guys. I do a lot of reading on my own. Like, I read American Queen. This is a book that I put in a video last year of books I wanted to read by the end of 2022. I did not get to it in 2022. I haven't gotten to a lot of those books in that video, but I have officially read American Queen. I purchased this book at a specific time in my life when I really enjoyed smut, when I really enjoyed a good sex scene, when I really enjoyed that type of fiction. I am no longer really in that current era in my life. Will I go back to that era? Sure, but I'm not in it now. So I knew starting off reading American Queen, I wasn't going to love it because I know it's very smutty. My opinions on American Queen, I could tell you what this book is about, but it really doesn't matter. This book is about a girl who is married to the president, and she's sleeping with the vice president, and they all sleeping together. That is what this book is simply about. This book is porn on pages. This book is just porn on pages. I don't even think you can get too invested in what the plot is because that's not the purpose of this book. This book is to read about 3 people having sex with each other, and all the plot just matters none. It's just porn on page, and I don't say that in a derogatory way. I don't have an issue with that, but that's what this is. And so when I'm going to judge it off of that, it's 3 stars. I thought it wasn't like, ooh, let me throw my book. And there were a few moments that did have me gag here or there that I was like, oh, interesting. But altogether, like, this is just not what I'm in. There's a sequel to this and maybe even more after that. I will not be picking this up, but I'm not mad I read it. And you know what? Once I do get back to my smutty reading era, when I do get back to my romance era, I probably will return to this. It's just not what I'm in the mood for now in my life. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Let's move on to Witchlings. Witchlings, the Golden Frog Games. This is a sequel, so I won't bore you. If you haven't read the first Witchlings, I will tell you what that is about. So basically, there is this town where everyone is a witch. And basically, when you come of age, you get separated into covens. And so basically from all your skills, how you interact with the other witchlings, you get put into a coven. So everybody wants to get put into a coven. But when the day comes where they're separating all of the girls, if you're not put into a coven, you are put into being a spare. And that's what starts our books. These 3 girls on the cover, they do not get covens. They become spares. And when becoming a spare, you have to complete an impossible challenge or you lose your magical power and you're like punished in some way. So our 3 girls become spares and they have to complete this task that like no one has ever passed. That was the first book. That's the pitch for the first book. We're on the second book. So, you know, I'm on the second book and you want to know what? This book was just as enjoyable as the first. I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. There's a final battle scene in this book that is so good. Like, so this is a middle grade, but it read so much older. Like, there were stakes. I was excited. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. Kenya is going to read the 3rd book in a series. It does not matter what it is. I never read the 3rd book in a series. I do not do it. I have literally series on my bookshelf that I just had the whole series because like I bought the whole series and I read book 1, I read book 2, but I have not read book 3. I don't know what it is. There's just something there that I just never get to book 3 in a series. And so I think I'm going to get to book 3 in a series. The next book that I will be getting to book 3 in the series is Amari and the Great Games. Let me pitch Amari to you. So we have Amari. Amari is from the hood. She goes to this private school, but she only goes to this private school because of public assistance. People are racist to her at this private school. And one day she just whacked one of these white girls in the head because they done played with my girl way too much. And she whacked one of them in the head and they trying to expel her. Well, when she's coming home, she gets a box. She gets a box from someone and they say it's from her brother. But that's mysterious because her brother has been missing. Her brother has been missing. Ain't nobody seen him. People think his brother is dead. And he gives her, there's a delivery in a box from her brother. And basically she is invited to basically this magical realm. Anyways, she's invited to this magical realm. When she gets to the magical realm, Amara realizes she's one of the most powerful magicians that there is in this powerful town. And they want her to defeat this monster, this evilness that has been fucking with them in this like magical town. That's Amari. That is Amari. Amari realizes like she is that bitch pretty much. And so this is book 2. Picks up right where book 1 leaves off. And it's so damn good. It's just the world of Amari is so good. My only gripe with this book, it's still 5 stars, is that it's a middle book. Like, this is not supposed to be the ending, and it reads like a middle book. Maybe that's why I never go past book 2 in a series. Book 2 in a series is always just that filler book to get you to like an end or like to a next chapter. And so I'm just like kind of over it. It's just like, I read so many books. It's just so hard for me to like, because it's one of those things, like it's a double-edged sword. I love my book collection. There is nothing you can do. You can yell over consumption. I always wanted a bunch of books in my house. I've wanted it since I was a child. I have always had a bunch of books since I was a child. But the issue with that is, it's like, I don't wait at bated breath for no book. I get excited. So if Joya Goffney puts out another book next year or the year after, of course, I can't wait to have it in my possession. But I'm not knocking down nobody goddamn door for a book, because there's so many books that I know I could read. And so when a third book comes out in a series, I'm just like, I'm not gagged. So when the second book is left on a cliffhanger, I'm not sitting here like I need, because it's just like, I got over 200 books staring at me that I could read. Like, I don't need. So that's what happens. I lose interest very quickly. Cover story. In this book, we are following a Russian woman as she scams this NYU student into writing a book for her. That is what this book is about. They work at Elle magazine together. The Russian woman and our NYU student work at Elle magazine together, and basically the Russian woman decides that she is going to scam this NYU student into writing a book for her and then fleeing the scene. But while we're reading, as the reader, we know that the FBI is on this Russian woman's trail and they are out to get her. This book is told in all different types of mixed media. We have letters, we have emails, we have all this stuff. We're getting the POV of the FBI, the Russian lady, and the NYU student, and it's coming to make a story. I loved it. I love women's fiction. What can I do? I love women's fiction. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It worked for me. It worked for me. Also, by the way, if you can't clock it, this is the most 4 or 5 stars I've ever gotten in a month. September is my best reading month of the year. We have more to go of books I really fucking enjoyed. So we have more to go. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. We have a bunch of books I did not read with you guys, and so we can run through it. The Push. In this book, we are following a mother as she talks about the very strange relationship she has with her daughter and something really unfortunate happening to her newborn son and the aftermath of all of that. That is what this book is about. I have heard great things about this book, and I have heard god-awful things about this book. The people who give this book like god-awful reviews, they talk about how uncomfortable this book made them. Like, it was gross. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't get past it. Then you have the people who like really love it, and they're like, whoa, this book was amazing. Like, that's how it ended up in my hands. And for me, I feel like both sides are a bit dramatic. I feel like both sides are being a bit dramatic. No, this is not my favorite book in the world. And I can't tell the people who are uncomfortable. They have no reason to be uncomfortable because that's their feelings. There's books other people are comfortable with, I'm uncomfortable with. So that's their feelings and they are allowed to feel that way. And I totally get it. But it didn't make me feel that way. Like because so many people had such a disgusted reaction to this book, I was expecting to come in here and like read some shit. But it really didn't give that. Like, the relationship she has with the daughter is not as I thought she was gonna be doing some crazy stuff to that daughter. Like, it wasn't that to me. It just wasn't what, like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I was expecting worse. And I also do not have children. And so, like, maybe if I had children or I was around children often, I could see, like, this is just a lot. And, like, obviously I was uncomfortable, but I wasn't uncomfortable in like who would put this on the page. I can't do this. I was uncomfortable in the way that the author wanted me to be uncomfortable. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I think this is a perfectly good thriller. I think this book is a perfectly good thriller. I don't love it. Like, it's not my favorite thriller in the world, but I was just like, okay, I got the story. Like, I honestly forgot I read it this in September. I thought it was good. I thought it was good. It didn't do what it did to some other people. On rotation, it's going to be kind of hard for me to remember what all of these books are about, I can tell. On rotation is about this Ghanaian, I was trying to make sure I knew what country she was from, this Ghanaian American girl who is in medical school, and basically she's dealing with the fact that she's trying to impress her parents. Her parents want her to, you know, get married. They have all these expectations for her, and she feels like she can't live up to them. She's not doing as well as she thought she would do in school. She's not doing as well as she thought she was in tests, and she for damn sure don't have any love interest, until one day she does meet this boy and they start dating, but he's not like what people would expect her family to be, like what they would expect, what her family would want her to date. And so they're dealing with all types of stuff. She's thinking about moving because once she finishes medical school, she has to go off and do residency. So she's trying to figure out what's the next step for that, getting into residency. On rotation, this book, like, it's fine. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. This book is fine. Oftentimes when I read stories about people with immigrant parents, I'm always looking for them to do like something more. Like, I read a lot of books about people writing about their immigrant families from all over the diaspora, all different races, and the books that really blow me away are the people who say things that I haven't heard other immigrant stories say. They hit on a reality I personally have never heard before, because like that's what I want to hear. I want to hear new stories. I want people to tell stories that I haven't heard before, like wake something up. And this book to me doesn't do that. Like, it's good and it's well written, but like it tells an immigrant story that I think a lot of people 100% can relate to, but also that I've read before in other immigrant stories about having immigrant parents who just want you to be scientific, who just want you to succeed, who just want you to have, get married. You get the same thing in Mame. I read Mame, last month. You get the same exact story, obviously done differently. And I think that's the, like, you know, the nuance of it all. But for me, I want to be blown away. Anyways, let's move on to Along for the Ride. Along for the Ride. This book is about two people who hate each other, who have to go cross country and help her sister move into a new apartment with his best friend because they are getting married. This book pissed me off. I already am hit or miss on road trip stories. Haven't decided how I feel about them. But if you're going to give me a book called Along for the Ride, I am expecting a road trip story. This book, for the first 100 pages, is a road trip story, and it's really good. Like, they go to this town, they get robbed. So good. And then they just come back home, and it's just a run-of-the-mill, will they, won't they? Like, it pissed me the hell. The last 150 pages of this book have nothing to do with a damn road trip. Like, I felt duped. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. That book, once they got done with the road trip, after like 70 pages in, they had shit to do with each other. I said, okay. The Wedding Party, I read this via audio. I'm trying to get through my entire Jasmine Guillory collection via audio. And so I read one of them, The Wedding Party. Do I know what this book is about? All I know is they have a mutual friend. They're like enemies. And they end up like being like sneaky links because they don't want to ruin the wedding of their best friend, being like, we're sleeping together. So they end up like sneaky linking, but he's kind of a nerd and she makes fun of him for being a nerd. So they have this weird, like, she thinks she's too good to date me and I feel a way about myself because she thinks I'm a nerd. But you know, eventually they do get together, and that's the book. 3 stars. I don't know what else to say about Jasmine Guillory books. Like, I'm waiting to just be blown away, duped, gagged, all of that, and they just never do. I gotta hang it up. The Royals Next Door is about a girl who lives in this, like, back house of this big old main house, and basically the royals in the UK are escaping because of all the media and racism and all of that, and they have moved next door to her. She runs into the security guard of the royals, and they have a big spat because she's like, I live here, and just because these royals moving in, you're not about to give me a hard time. And through that big spat, they end up having to communicate with one another and have relationships with one another, and they fall in love. That's what this book is about, and I give it 4 stars. This book is a really enjoyable book. You can see I'm trying to rush through this because truth is I'm tired, but this is a really good book, and if you have it on your bookshelf or you want to pick it up at the library, I think this would be a fun day in the sun. Eliza Starts a Rumor. You want to know, of all the books I think I read this month, this is one of the ones that continues to come back to me. Eliza Starts a Rumor is about a woman who runs a community board. She runs a community board, and she gets word that the girls are saying her community board is washed up, and there's a new, perkier community board that all the girls are fleeing to because it's juicier and more salacious. So she's like, I got these girls. I'm going to start a lie about my neighbors and hope people come to my community board. And it works. She starts a lie about the neighbors, but this lie starts this entire domino effect where all of a sudden everyone's life starts crumbling and everyone's truths come out. And that's what this book is about. This book gets really deep and really emotional. 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. Counterfeit. Counterfeit is about these 2 girls who went to college together, and they decide to go in business together selling counterfeit bags to people. They return fake bags and they sell real bags on eBay. And basically they are in communication with some of the factories over in Asia, and that's how they're doing all of this. Our main character, she is a lawyer, her husband is a doctor, they have a baby, and she's dealing with a lot of issues in her relationships with her child and her husband, and that's what leads her to getting into this. And in this book, she is talking to a detective because they have been caught. This book should have worked for me more in a way that Cover Story did, but it just didn't. I didn't find that the characters all that compelling. The story gets a little convoluted, I'm not going to lie. The best part about this book is the conversation it has about fast fashion and the stuff that we consume. But just being a really good story, I don't know if it quite hits the landing. 3 out of 5 stars. One of the weaker books I read this month because I love so many books that I read. Let's get into A Dowry of Blood, because this was my reading challenge. I'm still doing the reading challenge, girlies. This was my pick for the reading challenge for September. No, August. This is an August wrap-up. Whoa, I was literally saying like, ooh, it feels like September last. August. We're in August. This was the book I chose for August. For my reading challenge. So in this book, we are following a woman who is basically, her life has been like fucked over by like war and everything. Her like where she lived has been pillaged. And basically she is all alone, and this man comes and turns her into a vampire. And this is the story about how she is going to kill the man who turned her into a vampire and everything that they go through. My thoughts on this book is, if you like occult stories, if you like stories about vampires, this is a really good book. Like, I think you would love this book. I don't like occult stories. I really don't. So for me, there was only but so much I think I personally could take from a book like this. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And that 3.5 is actually leaning 4. I enjoyed this book well enough. I like that I have a pretty cover of it. Like, I enjoyed this book in all. It had such good prose. Oh my gosh. It was written so beautifully. So 3.5. The next book that we have to discuss is Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This is another book from that 2022 video of books I want to read by the end of 2022 that I did not get to. But why does this book look so huge in comparison to my head? I did read this book and I enjoyed this book. So in this book, we are following a couple named Cleo and Frank. Frank is fucking old. Frank is big and old, and Cleo is young. And basically, they work together. They were working together at like some company that Frank owned. And basically, they end up starting a relationship together. And this is just about how the rise and the fall of their relationship. This book is really, really good. Like 5 stars good. until like the 70% mark, this book takes a turn and it does something that I just wasn't in the mood to read. It does something to the Cleo character that I just wasn't in the mood to read. Like, I enjoyed the subtleness almost of the first 70%. And then when it makes this switch to like this obvious like mental health cry, I was kind of just like, okay, here we go. Here we go, and then the book ends. So I have to give this book 4 out of 5 stars. But I really enjoyed this book, and I enjoyed just this, like, I like literary fiction. What can I say? I enjoy literary fiction. I enjoy characters going through stuff, and I enjoy good prose, and just, I enjoy it. And so I enjoy Cleopatra and Frankenstein way more than I expected to. My favorite book that I read in August was 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. I know, this book came out forever ago. It's already had its day. People have enjoyed it. People have hated it. But it's my time. This book has been sitting on my bookshelf, and it was time for me to read it. In this book, we are following a man who works at a bookstore. He actually owns the bookstore at this point. And he used to write a blog for his bookstore. And in one of his blogs, he wrote an article about 8 perfect murders. And in this, he talked about all of the murder mystery books. What are the 8 murders that were like perfect? Like the person who was doing the killing in these murder mystery books could have gotten away with it, should have gotten away with it because they're perfect, they're seamless. That's how you do a crime. Well, the FBI pays him a visit, and it's like, someone is using your list to actually kill people. And he's like, that don't make no damn sense. And from then on, we get the story. I, last month, read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. This is the good book that Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone thought it was. This is what I wanted Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone to be. This book is amazing through and through. Number one, I love murder mysteries. I really, really do. I love the Agatha Christie's. I just love a good murder mystery. I like detective stories, which everyone says they hate detective stories. Not I. I like detective stories. I do. I love it all. And so this book is a love letter to detective stories and vintage detective stories. And it's a love letter to the murder mystery thriller genre. And that's what Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, I think, tried to be. But this one is just better written, in my opinion, more thoughtful, in my opinion. This book kept me on the edge of my seat. The character in this book is like talking to a reader. They're clearly writing something. And so that's another way it's like Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. But this book was amazing. I love 5 out of 5 stars. One of my favorite books that I read this year. You will hear about this book at the end of the year. So I tried to get lightning to strike twice. I said, I got more Peter Swanson on the shelf. So I picked up every value break. Dud. It's crazy how you can love something so fucking much, and then you read like another book from that person. It's like, oh, this stinks. Oh, this stinks. Every value break stinks. In this book, we are following a young woman who marries an older guy who has money, but she cheats on this older guy right before their wedding. And so she's just like, I'm not going to tell my husband, my future husband, because it don't matter. So they end up getting married, and lo and behold, this guy who she slept with starts coming around. He comes to their honeymoon, and that's when everything goes to shit. When this man shows up at her honeymoon, strange things are afoot. This book is boring. This book is not interesting. This book is not clever. This book is nothingness. And another thing about this book feels like a man was writing a woman. Sometimes when you read thrillers written by men, but the main character is a woman, it feels like a man writing a woman. And so it just, something doesn't like ring true about it. That was this book as well. Like, I just felt like the main character didn't really feel like how actual women act. So I don't know. No, this was a dud, 2 out of 5 stars. These are all the books. It's been a long time since I have attempted to hold up every single book, but today's the day. Today's the day. Ah, here they are. Oh my God. Oh my God. I will see you guys in the next one. This is an August wrap up, okay? An August wrap up. I will see you guys later. Peace. Ah! Oh my God. Let me put these up. Let me put them up. Oh, wait.